Good evening and welcome to Mega News at 6 p.m. We begin tonight with major stories, making headlines both locally and internationally. Moving on to the major headlines, stay with us.
BRITAG threatens industrial action over 20% deprived area allowance. In business, IMF signals improved debt outlook for Ghana. On a foreign front, at least 13 killed in Ukraine drone strike deep inside Russia.
You can watch us on all our socials at MBN 360. We have the details of the stories and more. My name is Naadide Gogo. Details of the stories coming up shortly. Now to our first story. President John Dramani Mahamat's state visit to Jamaica has been described as a significant step towards deepening Ghana-Jamaica relation with a renewed focus on their shared history, economic cooperation and future trade opportunities.
President John Dramani Mahamat's 4-day state visit to Jamaica has been hailed as a major milestone in strengthening relations between Ghana and the Caribbean nation. A presidential spokesperson, Phyllis Kwakye-Ofosu, says the visit has helped reinforce historical and cultural bonds between the two countries, whilst opening new opportunities for trade and investment. The visit included high-level engagement with Jamaica authorities, discussions aimed at expanding cooperation in areas of mutual interest. The two countries share deep historical links, particularly through the transatlantic slave trade and African diaspora. President Mahamat's visit is also expected to give fresh momentum to efforts to turn those historical connections into strong economic partnership. The focus now is on whether the agreement and commitment emerging from the visit can translate into increased trade, investment, and opportunities for businesses and citizens in both countries.
We move to the education sector, where the Ghana Education Service has assured the Ghana National Association of Private Schools, GNAS.
The Ghana Education Service says it will conduct a fair and transparent review of concerns raised by the Ghana National Association of Private Schools over the 2026 Basic Education Certificate Examination results. The assurance follows concerns from the private schools about aspects of the results and the need for greater clarity on how some of the outcomes were determined. The GS says it is prepared to engage the Private Schools Association and examine the issues raised as part of efforts to ensure confidence in the examination and placement process. The review is expected to provide clarity for affected schools, students, and parents. The two sides are expected to continue discussion as the education authorities work to address the concerns.
Moving on, the Pre-Tertiary Teachers Association of Ghana, PRETA, is strengthening industrial actions over delays in implementing the proposed 20% allowance for teachers working in deprived areas.
The Pre-Tertiary Teachers Association of Ghana, PRETAG, is strengthening industrial action over the delayed implementation of a 20% deprived areas allowance. The association says teachers working in underserved communities faces difficult conditions including inadequate infrastructure, limited teaching and learning resources, and the challenges in attracting and retaining qualified staff. PRETAG is calling on government and relevant authorities to address the issue and ensure the allowance is implemented. The association says failure to resolve the matter could force its members to take industrial action. The dispute comes amidst broader calls for improved conditions of service for teachers, particularly those working in hard-to-reach and deprived communities. Pretax says it remains open to dialogue but expects concrete actions from authorities to resolve the matter.
It's actually 200 Ghana cedis per month. The Fair Wages and Salaries Commission tells us that they can only give a 10% increment to the digital allowance, which is only 800 Ghana cedis per year. What it means is that they are ready to increase the digital allowance by 80 cedis per year. And this allowance attracts a tax of 200 Ghana cedis. What it means is that they are actually increasing it by 60 cedis. This 60 cedis is per year. So if you divide it by 12, government is actually giving the teacher 5 Ghana cedis per month. This, we think that it's not fair to the Ghanaian teacher. And we are calling on government, we are calling the Ministry of Education, the Ministry of Finance, the Ministry of Employment, Fair Wages and Salaries Commission, Ghana Education Service, to sit with us to resolve this matter, to prevent any industrial unrest.
Oh, yes.
Moving forward, the President of the Republic, His Excellency John Dramani Mahama, when he was a candidate in 2024, met with us, the teacher unions. As we sit here, those of us that he met with us, we are still here. And he made 2 major promises that if we give him the support and he wins the December 7, 2024 elections and become president on 7 January 2025, within his first 6 months in office, he is going to implement for us the deprived area allowance, which has been on the drawing board since 2009. He is also going to see to it that promotion of teachers from deputy director to director 2 and to director 1 are no longer tied to positions, and that teachers can rise through the ranks to the highest rank of director 2. A big applaud we gave. Thankfully, the election went the way we all expected. His Excellency John Dramani Mahama became president. And indeed, he mounted a number of platforms to still continue that promise that he will get it done. We are aware that his office directly wrote to the Public Services Commission to make sure that the scheme of service for the Ghanaian teacher, pre-tertiary teacher, is done. All this has been done, but we are bringing it to the attention of His Excellency the President that the 20% deprived area allowance that he promised for the Ghanaian teacher has still not been implemented. And today, we are even being told that it will not be implemented because the Fair Wages tells us that government is bringing a new thing they call Independent Emolument Commission. And the Independent Emolument Commission must do A, B, C, D. And because of that, government is not ready to give anybody any increment, neither introduce any new allowance. We think that it is a stab in the back. And we are calling on His Excellency the President that he sees to it that by the end of this month, August, the deprived area allowance is implemented. And the teachers that qualify to move from deputy director to director 2 and subsequently to director 1 is also implemented. If these things are not done, government should have itself to blame. We first gave the deadline of the end of July. The Ghana Education Service, the Fair Wages and Salaries Commission spoke and spoke and spoke and spoke and decided that we are holding on with our July ultimatum. But this August ultimatum, if what we want is not addressed.
Also, the Ministry of Local Government says only 59.3% of households in Ghana have access to improved toilet facilities, highlighting persistent challenges with sanitation across the country.
Only 59.3% of households in Ghana have access to improved toilet facilities, according to the Ministry of Local Government. The figure highlights continued gaps in sanitation and access to basic household facilities across the country. The ministry says improving sanitation remains a major priority, with efforts needed to increase access to safe and hygienic toilet facilities, particularly in underserved communities. The statistics also points to the wider challenges facing Ghana's sanitation sector, including inadequate infrastructure and open defecation in some communities. Authorities says improving household sanitation will require stronger investment, effective enforcement of sanitation regulations, and greater public awareness. The government is expected to work with local authorities and other stakeholders to improve access to sanitation facilities and help protect public health.
The Ghana Association of University Administrators, GAUA, has begun industrial actions over what it describes as 50% disparity in allowances paid to senior members of university administrators.
The Ghana Association of University Administrators, GUA, has begun industrial action over what it calls an unfair disparity in allowances among senior members of university administration. The association says some senior university administrators are receiving significantly higher allowances than others performing comparable roles. The association says the disparity has created concerns over fairness and equity within the university system. The association is calling for the differences in allowances to be addressed for a more uniform approach to compensation for affected senior members. The strike could affect administrative operations at public universities if the dispute remains unresolved. The association says it expects the authorities to engage with the association to find a lasting solution to the issue.
Strike simply because there is widening disparity in the market premium offered by government and related allowances. Comparatively, if you peg the least teaching staff allowance in relation to the highest non-teaching staff, you see a disparity of not less than 50%. The executives of GAWA have made such efforts. They have written to the Fair Wages and government, other parties in government, but regrettably we couldn't get any positive response from them. The strike, as declared, based on our communique, it's 100%. So it encompasses it encompasses IT staff, accountants, doctors, development office, everybody's on board. So we are not doing it graduated for.
Away from that story, the U.S. trial of former Goldman Sachs backer and former Tema oil refinery boss Asante Breku has put a decade oil power with Ghana under renewed security, with prosecutors aligning that more than $1 million in bribe were paid to Ghanaian officials to secure approval for a power plant project.
The U.S. trial of Ghanaian-American businessman Asante Breku has brought renewed attention to allegations of corruption surrounding a major power project in Ghana. The U.S. prosecutors alleged that between 2014 and 2017, Breku and others orchestrated payments to Ghanaian officials to help a Turkish energy company secure approval to build and operate a power plant. At the center of the case is Asante Breku, a former executive at a subsidiary of a U.S. investment bank who was involved in securing and managing the power project. The Turkish energy company Asker Energy was seeking to develop and finance the plant, whilst the Ghanaian government and its officials were involved in approvals required for the project. U.S. prosecutors alleged that hundreds of thousands of dollars in bribes were paid, including payment to Ghanaian officials. Court documents also refer to payment made during a trip to Turkey by Ghanaian officials involved in the project. Another institution at the center of the case is the Goldman Sachs, where Breku worked. The bank itself has not been accused of wrongdoing, and prosecutors says Breku allegedly concealed the scheme from the bank's compliance team. The U.S. Department of Justice and FBI are prosecuting and investigating the case under the Foreign Corrupt Practices Act and money laundering laws. Bekun was extradited from the United Kingdom to the United States in 2024. Bekun has pleaded not guilty. The allegations against him remain unproven and is presumed innocent unless convicted by the court.
Let's go for a break. Up next is business news with Farah Ayi.
MBN Jasuni Fremi Ejahima Sawupa Sawuba MBN Jasua Fremi was 0245 88 2128 MBN Jasu Kameho na yendi eja at the right place.
Good evening and welcome back from that break. My name is Farah Ayi and this is the business news. Now in business, the International Monetary Fund says Ghana's debt trajectory has improved significantly, supported by stronger economic growth, fiscal consolidation and progress in debt restructuring, although significant risks remain.
The International Monetary Fund says Ghana's debt outlook has improved as the country makes progress with its economic recovery and debt restructuring program. The IMF says Ghana's debt trajectory has improved significantly with the debt stock and debt service burden declining faster than previously anticipated. It says stronger economic growth, improved fiscal performance, and the restructuring of public debts has contributed to the positive outlook. The fund's latest debt sustainability assessment indicates that Ghana's debt indicators are expected to move below the relevant thresholds, with the country's debt situation improving towards a moderate risk of debt distress. However, the IMF has cautioned that vulnerabilities remain, including potential domestic financing, pressures and exposures of fluctuations in commodity prices and the exchange rate. The fund says continual fiscal discipline, stronger revenue mobilization, and the full implementation of reforms will be critical to sustaining the gains. Ghana is therefore being urged to remain, of course, with its economic program as it seeks to restore long-term debt sustainability and investor confidence.
Also in business, investor demand for Ghana's 364-day Treasury bill has remained strong, with more than 6 billion Ghana cedis in bids submitted at least auction, signaling continued appetite for government securities.
Ghana's 364-day Treasury bill has attracted more than 6 billion cedi in investor bids at the latest auction. The strong demand reflects continued investor interest in government securities, as investors look for relatively secure avenues to preserve and grow their funds. The 364-day bill is among the short-term instruments used by government to raise funds to support its financing needs. The level of investor participation will also be closely watched as an indicator of confidence in Ghana's domestic financial market. Analysts say sustained demand for Treasury bill could help government manage its financing requirements, although the cost of borrowing remains an important consideration. The latest session comes as government continues efforts to strengthen fiscal management and restore confidence in the domestic debt market.
That's all for business news. Up next is sports and entertainment with Wendy Lati.
Let me introduce you to Farm Global Company Limited. At Farm Global, we offer you a variety of groceries and provisions to choose from. Cosmetics, perfumes, bed sheets, undies, boxes, you can mention all. This is our perfume stand, and we have variety of perfumes you can choose from for yourself and your loved ones. We cover Latapa, fragrance world, and quality perfumes that will last long on your body. On our cosmetic section, we have variety of lotions, creams, hair pomade that can keep you going. Let your feet do the talking and your hand do the showcasing. Your babies are not left out. We got you covered. At Farm Global, we make shopping a beautiful experience for you and your family. You can be at home, send your list and get it delivered for free. Yes, for free. We know you can pay for it, but we want to show appreciation. We bring everything to you at your doorstep. Locate Farm Global on the Nungwabuade Road, just opposite Redeemer Chemist. Call us on 0592 0999 52 or 050 384 3633. Farm Global, fast, reliable, and convenient.
Welcome back from the break. You're still watching Mega News at 6 on MBN TV, and I'm Wendy Lati. And now in the world of sports, Black Queens head coach Kim Lars Jørgensen says he had hoped Ghana would secure automatic qualification for the FIFA Women's World Cup through the 2026 Women's Africa Cup of Nations, highlighting the importance of the tournament to the team's ambition.
Black Queens head coach Kim Lars Bjorkegren says he was hoping Ghana would secure automatic qualification for the FIFA Women's World Cup through the 2026 Women's Africa Cup of Nations. Bjorkegren says World Cup qualification was a major objective for the team going into the tournament. The Swedish coach has been overseeing the Black Queens as Ghana seeks to re-establish itself among Africa's leading women's football nations. He says the opportunity to qualify automatically would have been an important reward for the team's progress and preparations. The Black Queens are now focused on making the most of their WAFCON campaign, with the team aiming to compete strongly against the continent's best. Bjorkegren says the ultimate ambition is to build a competitive Ghana side capable of qualifying for major tournaments and challenging for honors on the international stage.
And now in entertainment, Ghanaian rapper Kweku Smoke is set to host a free upcoming show in Berekum, giving fans an opportunity to experience his music live without paying an entrance fee.
Ghanaian rapper Kweku Smoke is set to return to Berekum for a free homecoming concert. The event, dubbed the Revival Homecoming Show, is expected to bring together music lovers and residents for an evening of live entertainment. The show forms part of Kweku Smoke's efforts to connect with his hometown audience and celebrate his roots through music. Organizers say the event will feature live performances and other entertainment activities with fans granted free access. The concert is expected to attract music lovers from Berekum and surrounding communities. Kweku Smoke has built a strong following in Ghana's hip-hop and music scene with his energetic performances and street-oriented sound, earning him a growing audience.
And that's all for today on sports and the entertainment bulletins. Now Nadede joins with the entertainment after the break.
Hi, welcome to Shiloh Guest House, where comfort meets warmth. Our serene environment and cozy rooms provides a pleasant stay. To book a room with us, call 055-5940-103 and 0241-972076. Locate us at Teshinungwa Estate, number 8 Coconut Street, directly behind A-Life Supermarket. Shiloh Guest House, where comfort meets warmth.
Welcome back from the break. On the international front, at least 13 people have been killed in a Ukrainian drone strike deep inside Russia, according to Russian officials, in one of the latest attacks amid ongoing war between two countries.
At least 13 people have been killed following a Ukrainian drone strike deep inside Russia, according to Russian officials. The attack reportedly targeted areas from the front line, highlighting Ukraine's growing ability to carry out long-range strike inside Russian territories. Russian authorities say civilians were among those killed, while several others are reported to have been injured. Ukraine has significantly expanded its use of drones against targets inside Russia since the start of the war, often targeting military, energy, and industrial facilities. Kiev has not always claimed responsibility for individual strike, but has argued that attacks inside Russia are aimed at disrupting Moscow's ability to wage war. The latest incident comes as diplomatic efforts continue alongside intense fighting, with both sides showing little sign of ending their military operations.
Also, Mali Army says dozens of militants have been killed in fighting over a military base as security forces continue operations against armed groups in the country.
Mali's army says dozens of militants have been killed during a battle for a military base. The fighting is part of a continuing military operations against armed groups operating in the country. The army says its forces repelled the attack and inflicted significant casualties on the militants. It has not provided an independent assessment of the reported death toll, and the claims have not been independently verified. Mali has faced a long-running security crisis involving Islamic militant groups and other armed factions, particularly in the north and central parts of the country. The latest fighting comes as Mali's military authorities continue efforts to strengthen their control over territories and counter armed groups. Security remains a major challenge, with attacks on military and civilian targets continuing in parts of the country.
That's all for the 6 p.m. news, but before we go, let's take a recap of the major headlines.
BRITAG threatens industrial action over 20% deprived area allowance. In business, IMF signals improved debt outlook for Ghana. On a foreign front, at least 13 killed in Ukraine drone strike deep inside Russia.
Business news was read by Farah I. Sports and Entertainment, Wedilati. My name is Nadia Degogo. See you same time tomorrow. Have a very good evening.